licensing occupation. We have a lengthy agenda, so we're going to keep moving here. A couple of housekeeping items. Please silence your iPhones. If you're interested in testifying, please sign in. Testimony is within the chair's discretion, is based on time constraints and information that's already been presented. There'll be no signs allowed in the committee room. Before we call roll, well, let's go ahead and call roll, and then we'll have a moment of silence for Senator Bowen. Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Douglas. Senator Higdon. Senator Hornback. Senator Howell. Senator McDaniel. Senator Neal. Senator Nemus. Senator Thayer. Senator Thomas. Chairman Schickel.
Present. We received some very sad news this morning that our former colleague and friend Joe Bowen passed away about 3 a.m. this morning. Of course, his family's heartbroken. We're heartbroken. Let's all stand for a moment of silence. The first item on the agenda will be House Bill 192, an act relating to electrical inspections. Representative Santoro, welcome to this committee. And I understand you have someone testifying on Zoom.
Yes, I do. I don't know, Jason Swahili from Transportation.
Jason, are you on?
Yes, sir, Representative.
Oh, there he is.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome before the committee. And I want to make this announcement. This will be the last committee that will be accepting remote testimony. From here on out, everyone will be required to be here. Welcome to the committee. I believe we have a committee sub that needs to be adopted, Representative. So I'll take a motion on the sub. We have a motion and a second on the sub to adopt the sub. All those in favor use voting sign of aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that the sub has been adopted. Welcome, Representative, and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Senator. You do not need the egg timer, I promise. House Bill 192 was brought to my attention by the highway contractors and the Boone County Judge Executive. A few years ago, we had just a red flashing light in front of our courthouse. They redid the whole intersection. They put a red, yellow, and green light. When the highway contractor went for electrical inspection on that, what happened was Housing Building Construction said it was a $5,000 fee. The highway contractor in the county said it's usually a $250 fee. So what happened was we met with Transportation. They said that is what happens. Then the same thing happened in Pikeville, Kentucky. The fee was exorbitant. So that's what's actually is going to happen. The taxpayers are end up going to be paying for this. So I introduced a bill that the local contractor would have the ability, the local electrical inspector would have the ability to inspect these traffic signals. It would be from the utility company to the switch, the disconnect. That is like an on-off switch. After that, the Transportation Department is responsible for all others. Basically, that's the bill.
Motion on the bill. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions of our guest that's on Zoom from the Department of Transportation, or any questions or comments of the representative? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to testify against this bill? I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Senator Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to ask Representative Santoro who his favorite senator is.
At this present time, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Anything else? Madam Secretary, Call the roll.
Senator Rocky Adams, Senator Douglas, Senator Higdon, Senator Hornback, Senator Howe, Senator McDaniel, Senator Neal,
Vote and explain.
Senator Nemus, Senator Thayer, Senator Thomas, Chairman Schickel.
House Bill 192 is passed with favorable expression that same should pass. Congratulations. We have a motion for consent. We also have a second. All those in favor use the voting sign of aye. Anyone opposed, like sign. It will be on consent. Congratulations and thank you for
Thank
your
you.
testimony. The next item on the agenda is House Bill 249, an act relating to heating, ventilation, air conditioning services. Representative Dixon. I believe Tom Underwood's here also. You can come up and have a seat, Tom. And to save time, the people that are opposed to this bill, we got one chair left. Somebody come up that's opposed and sit down. This is a bill that has been had a lot of discussion over the last. It was heard during the interim. We do have a committee substitute. At this time, I will accept the motion on to adopt the sub.
Motion on the sub.
We have a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor use the voting sign of aye. Anyone opposed, like sign. The sub is adopted. Welcome and thank you for your patience, and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members. I'm Representative Jonathan Dixon from the 11th District. What you have before you today is House Bill 249. Like the chairman said, it was heard in the interim. House Bill 249 simply clarifies and calls out that air duct cleaning is separate from HVAC installation, thus reducing the requirement to have a full HVAC license to conduct this service. You do have to be a licensed contractor, licensure in the state of Kentucky for that to apply. The committee sub that's before you introduces some additional language to that bill that would change 198B.421, temporary elevator mechanics license. This would end that an elevator contractor shall notify the department when the contractor has, and it would strike no and put a shortage of licensed personnel to perform elevator work. It would also add that the elevator mechanics licensed person confirmed by a licensed elevator contractor shall have a combination of 2 years of documented experience or education to perform work without direct or immediate supervision. This is not to exceed 25% of the licensed personnel employed by the elevator contractor. It also has a temporary license that shall be renewed for one additional term of a year. Mr. Chairman, those are the two House bill and the committee sub that are before you. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer those.
Thank you for that concise explanation. Mr. Underwood, do you have any additions you want to make, any additional explanation on the sub? And after that, I'm going to let the people opposed talk.
Very briefly, sir, and for the record, my name is Tom Underwood, and I'm here representing DC Elevator. It is the largest elevator contractor in the state. I want to thank Representative Dixon for allowing us to work with him on this. What we've done here is this was an unworkable statute that wasn't pointed out to us until the labor shortage came about. When the original language said that no licensed personnel available, which meant that a contractor could not have one single licensed mechanic working for them before anyone could get a temporary mechanic's license. And when you've got a contractor that has no personnel that are qualified enough to get a license, that's probably a wide open door that doesn't need to be open. With this, we're tightening up the requirement for
Thank you.
education.
Rodney, welcome to the table, and proceed with your testimony as opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ronnie Pryor with Capital Solutions, LLC, and here representing the elevator industry. Work Preservation Fund, which has the union elevators in Kentucky. And let me say, Mr. Chairman, the committee substitute is much improved over what was offered in January and discussed. I think a couple of issues I'd point out. This bill was passed in 2010. This law was, and it took a tragedy to get it passed. And Senator Hornback, your predecessor, is the one that sponsored this bill. And so it's been around 12 years and probably needs to be revisited. But going to Mr. Underwood's testimony, no licensed personnel, and it makes it hard to get temporary licenses. Well, after the last committee meeting, Senator Schickel, we did an open records request with the Department of Housing, Building, and Constructions, and Commissioner Rands. We asked 3 simple questions. How many active elevator licenses are there in Kentucky? The answer was 360. How many are temporary? He says 25. How long does it take to get a temporary license? He says 1 to 2 weeks once the completed application is submitted. And then we asked specifically about DC, since that was what the testimony was in January. How many temporary licenses do they have? And the answer was 11. So out of the 25, they had at that time 44% of all of them in the state. So under the law that Mr. Underwood says no licensed personnel, they've been able to get 44% of all temporary licenses in Kentucky. They had 11 of them, so they didn't seem to be very hard to get, although he did say they'd been turned down from some. I think the big issue, I know your time is short, Mr. Chairman. Is the word shortage. The word shortage in the first sentence is not defined.
Thank you. Does your guest have anything?
Yes, Vernon Soder. I am the business manager for the International Union of Elevator Constructors.
Welcome to the committee.
Thank you. We represent the majority of the companies in the state of Kentucky. The word shortage just is open-ended. Temporary license for an elevator mechanic, if you don't know what an elevator mechanic does, yes, he works on elevators, but he does everything. He does every trade. An elevator incorporates every trade there is out there: electrical, plumbing, metalwork, everything. So to just allow a lot of temporary licenses out there, you need the training and stuff. And we just don't want to give licenses out like candy out there.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Representative Dixon, for bringing this bill. I've got a question for Mr. Underwood. Obviously, you're able to get temporary license now with this zero requirement. What changes? Does this make this just easier to do? How does this help you in this situation?
Thank you for that question, Senator. I will tell you that DC Elevator has been turned down for a number of temporary licenses in the last few months, and it was cited the no as being the reason that they weren't given that. When we talk about percentage as well, the number 44% came up. DC Elevator has 70 mechanics on staff, so well below the 25% that we're proposing here.
Proceed, Mr. Vice Chair.
Is this a situation from a business standpoint where you contract so far out in advance that you need to be able to have some certainty that you'll be able to fill these contracts? Is there any long-term business reason? I know that the testimony was that you can turn these around in a week or two, which seems pretty good when you need help, but is there any reason to need some certainty and some more reassurance that you're going to be able to get these, to be able to fill these contracts when you bid them out in the future?
Two things. One, the construction industry typically does long-term bids, and that is part of the problem, but also elevators are something that are used on a daily basis hundreds and hundreds of times, and they require regular maintenance and repair. So there is a lot of business out there, and there is also a shortage of folks to work on them. And that's why we'd like to see some of these individuals have been working 2 years or more, and it takes 3 years to get a license. So this basically walks them into the last part of their qualification so they can take the license exam, but allows them to receive the full mechanic's pay while that period is going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Senator Thomas has the last question.
Well, Senator Thomas, that's a great question. Again, this law was and is and should be about safety, not a economic development issue. And I can tell you, it's not the first time we've seen a law like this. There's been one or two attempts over the last 12 years. But regardless of that, I can only tell you what the department told us under an open records request, and that was that there was 25 total in the state. We have 81 licensed elevator mechanics, and we have one temporary license. And DC had no shortage of them, but they did say they had been turned down for some. And I think, Senator Hornback, if you have a contract for 10,000 bushels of grain, you deliver 8,000, you know how much you're short. I think Senator McDaniel can define what shortage is in his business. I think shortage in the way the bill is written is whatever I say it is. And, we think it needs to be tightened down a little bit more than that.
No further questions.
Madam Secretary, call the roll. I'm sorry, second meeting in a row I made that mistake.
Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I make motion that House Bill 249, as amended by committee substitute, be reported favorably. Motion same shall pass.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Senator Rocky Adams.
Can I explain my aye vote?
Vote and explain.
I'm going to vote aye to move it out of committee, but I do have a couple of questions that I want to circle back with the presenters on before it goes to the floor.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Higdon. Senator Hornback. Senator Howell.
Explain my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Vote and explain.
I'm going to vote aye to get it out of committee. I'm kind of mirror Senator Adams' comments on this. I've still got some questions. But to move it on out of committee, I'm going to vote.
Senator McDaniel.
Aye.
Senator Neal. Senator Nemus.
Aye.
Senator Thayer.
Aye.
Senator Thomas.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to explain my no vote.
Vote and explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I vote no. I admit that this is an area that I don't know a whole lot about. I know we did pass a bill here about 3 weeks ago in which we acknowledged that there was an elevator shortage. And we said because there's a shortage of elevator mechanics, we ought to give them some leeway to get more experience and more education. And we passed that, and I voted for that. But it seems to me here that I do agree with Mr. Pryor that the term shortage ought to be identified. I think he's right about that. You just can't say I got a shortage and then get temporary people, particularly when we got elevators. And I want to be proactive. I don't want there to be blood on the table before we act. So I just have some uneasiness about this right now. I'm going to vote no.
Chairman Schickel.
Aye. We have 8 yeses and 1 no and 2 pass. House Bill 192 is passed with favorable expression that same should pass.
Motion on the title amendment.
We have a title and we have a motion on the title amendment. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor of adopting the title amendment, use the voting sign of aye. Anyone opposed, like sign. The title amendment is adopted. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members.
The next item we're going to hear is House Bill 251, an act relating to fees for dietitians and nutritionists. I'm sorry I took you third instead of second there. I got confused.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My favorite senators here at this moment for allowing me to present this very simple
You're
piece.
welcome.
For allowing me to present this very simple piece of legislation that we heard during the interim. And simply all it does is for the dietitians and nutritionists, it moves the setting of their fees from statutory to regulatory, which has kindly been the motion we've been going in with.
On the bill.
We have a motion and we have a second, and you're exactly right, Representative. This is a direction this committee's been going in. Are there any questions? Questions or discussions? Anyone who's opposed to the bill want to speak? Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Higdon. Senator Hornback. Senator Howell. Senator McDaniel. Senator Neal. Senator Nemus. Senator Thayer. Senator Thomas. Chairman Schickel.
Aye. 11 yeas. No nos. No passes. House Bill 251 is passed with favorable expression that same should pass. Congratulations.
Motion for consent.
We have a motion for consent. Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second? Multiple seconds. All those in favor use voting sign of aye for consent. Opposed, like sign. Will be placed on consent. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you.
You're welcome. The next item is House Bill 175, an act relating to massage therapy. Representative Cook. This is another bill which we've talked about a lot, I think, for 2 years.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the committee. I'm Representative Matt Cook, representing the 72nd District. I'll let my guests introduce themselves.
Rebecca Hartsoe Babbage, co-founder for the American Massage Therapy Association.
Heather Wagers, an executive director with the Office of Attorney General.
Welcome and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Very simply, this bill places a fingerprint and background language that the FBI and the state police require into the bill. I'll remind you that last year we passed House Bill 79 that required the fingerprint language and the background check. So this is simply the language that the FBI and the state police require to go with it.
I appreciate that concise testimony. Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have any questions? Senator Higdon.
I just want to make a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Heather, thank you for always being accessible when we have an issue, and just wanted to thank you for if any of you have issues with the Justice Cabinet, she's the lady to call, and she's very good about getting back to you, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm able now to direct people to the right places to go since I'm at OAG, but yes, I still can make sure that you all have the right contacts.
At this time, I entertain a motion. To have a motion, is there a second? A motion and a second. Any further discussion, or would any of our other guests on the panel like to give us some testimony? I want to thank you all for your patience. This is it's taken a little while to get here, and I appreciate your patience.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone here who wants to speak against this bill? Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Douglas. Senator Higdon. Senator Hornback. Senator Howell. Senator McDaniel. Senator Neal. Senator Nemus. Senator Thayer. Senator Thomas. Chairman Schickel.
11 yeas, no nays. 0 POWs. House Bill 175 is passed with favorable expression that same should pass. I'll accept the motion for consent. Motion, is there a second? We have a motion and a second for consent. All those in favor use voting sign of aye. All those opposed, like sign. It will be placed on consent. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Next thing on the agenda is House Bill 77, an act relating to radon safety. And welcome, Kevin Bratcher. I'm sorry to keep you waiting so long, or I should say Representative Bratcher.
Thank you, sir. Chris Nolan is with me, and
welcome. Both of you are no strangers to the committee. So proceed with your testimony, or identify yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Kevin Bratcher, State Representative, 29th District.
Chris Nolan, representing the Kentucky Association of Radon Professionals.
This bill simply eliminates the Radon Advisory Committee and brings radon safety up to the board level. There's been several safeguards to prevent board members getting too nutty with the subpoena power. So I'll let Chris take it from there.
And we do have a sub. There was an error, which is my fault. It was not placed in the packet. So technically, because it did not meet the 24-hour rule, if any member of the committee objects, we won't be able to go forward. But there's been pretty wide consensus on this, so I think that we'll be just fine. Chris, you want to? First, I'll take a motion to adopt the sub. Okay. We have a motion to adopt and a second to adopt the sub. All those in favor of adopting the sub, use the voting sign of aye. Anyone opposed, like sign. The sub is adopted. Senator Nemes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Bratcher. You said something about subpoena power. Does this new board have subpoena power?
Yes, sir. I can address that question. That came up in the interim quite a bit in discussion in this committee, and so we addressed that on page 7 of the bill. All the boards in Public Protection Cabinet have some sort of subpoena power. All the other, I think there's close to 30 boards, have that subpoena power. So what we did is we tightened it up on page 7, line 18. It's paragraph 11 that says the subpoenas can only be issued through the board's attorney, which is a staff attorney at Public Protection Cabinet, and only under the authority of the board's general counsel. So the general counsel of the cabinet has to approve that, which is standard practice.
Thank you. We may need to change that standard. I hate subpoena powers.
It's
a great question, and we did talk about this a lot during the interim. You're exactly right.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can address that last
you may.
Question, it's my understanding in working with the House attorneys that a standard attorney has subpoena power today. All attorneys do. And so we just wanted to make sure it was done under the authority of the cabinet.
I'm curious, was this in the original bill, or is this a change in the committee sub, or was this in the original bill?
This was in the original bill as it came out of the House.
Okay.
We're not changing that in the sub.
That's what I thought. Thank you for answering that.
But the board needs the ability to ask for records. Yep.
Any other questions or comments regarding this bill, Senator Thomas?
I have a question for Representative Bratcher, if I may. Representative Bratcher, I do know that in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of discussion about radon and the fact that it how dangerous it is in homes, but it has never reached the level of asbestos in terms of awareness and notice to potential buyers or residents that radon is in the premises. Does this bill strengthen protections to home buyers or tenants regarding radon testing in premises and living conditions?
Well, it makes radon, brings the awareness of radon much higher. It is one of the, it has been linked to lung cancer in Kentucky. It's United States, 21,000 died last year. It could be linked to radon, and it's a radioactive gas. I think it's worthy of a board status, and that's what, to answer your question, Senator Thomas, at a board level, it would be much. The safety guards would be there. So, yeah, this would help that. Yeah.
Well, I certainly can get behind that because I think that we ought to put radon on an equal level as asbestos in terms of notification and awareness to prospective people who are going to live there as to what's involved.
I know as chairman of this committee, the awareness of it has really risen. When we first started talking about radon, it was hardly recognized. Now it's very much recognized across the industry. Are there any other questions? I'll take a motion on the bill at this time. Entertain a motion.
Motion on the bill.
Motion on the bill. We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion or questions? I want to point out to the committee that this was my mistake, that the sub was given to us in time, but I apologize I didn't get it out to the members. Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Senator Rocky Adams, Senator Douglas, Senator Higdon, Senator Hornback, Senator Howell, Senator McDaniel, Senator Neal, Senator Nemus, Senator Thayer.
Mr. Chairman, may I explain my vote?
Vote and explain.
I vote yes. Just like to note we're passing a lot of House bills in committee today.
Isn't that, yeah, that is recognition.
I
of
noticed that. didn't you?
Yes, me too. I vote aye.
I'll take that message back.
Thank you.
Senator Thomas, Chairman Chickle.
I vote aye, and I'd like to echo Senator Thayer's comments. I have a very important one I'm very interested in down there. But lest I digress, 11 yeses and no nos.
Motion for consent.
The House bill is passed with favorable expression that same should pass. We'll now entertain a motion for consent. Motion for consent.
Motion for consent.
We have a motion and a second for consent. All those in favor use voting sign of aye. All opposed, like sign. It's on consent, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And the last thing on the agenda we have is House Bill 65, an act relating to licensed professional counseling compacts.
It's okay. It's okay.
Well, we do pass over bills here. House Bill 65, an act relating to licensed professional compacts, and we've talked about this one a lot too. I think we have some testimony also on Zoom. I want to especially recognize Dr. Don Hinton from Boone County, the Executive Director of Kentucky Counseling Association. It's an honor to have you with us this morning. Introduce yourselves for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Representative Norma Kirk McCormick, former District 93, current District 97.
I'm Representative Walker Thomas, District 8.
I have joining me Dr. Lindsey Brown McCormick, LPC of Mental Health, Dr. Rebecca Baum, and Don Hinton will be joining me for questions or testimony on this bill. This legislation would establish the Licensed Professional Counseling Compact. The purpose of the compact is to facilitate interstate practice of licensing professional counselors to improve public access to professional counseling services. Would recognize member states licensing to assist with the current patient backlog and the shortage of counselors. This bill is designed for the facilitation of keeping more counselors in the state and provide access to care for Kentucky citizens. The compact would preserve the regulatory authority of states. With the shortage of counselors and with our great need of counseling, and COVID has certainly impacted our mental health field tremendously. I appreciate your cooperation with this bill.
We're happy to do it. Any further testimony?
Motion on the bill.
We have a motion and a second. This has been talked about during the interim. Do our guests on Zoom have any comments?
Dr. Brown, you want to comment?
Sure. Just to say that I think that the fact that we're moving forward with an interstate compact like this, or the potential of moving forward with an interstate compact, would be a tremendous asset to the state of Kentucky.
Thank you for your Sounds like you got a little one you're taking care of.
It's my granddaughter, my first granddaughter.
And we do have a motion and a second. Is there anyone in the audience or that wants to speak against this bill or is opposed to this bill, wants to testify? Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Senator Rocky Adams, Senator Douglas, Senator Higdon, Senator Hornback, Senator Howell, Senator McDaniel, Senator Neal, Senator Nemus, Senator Thayer, Senator Thomas, Chairman Schickel.
Aye. We have 11 yeses, no nos, no passes. The bill is passed with favorable expression that same should pass. Do we have a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
Is there a second? All those in favor use the voting sign of aye. Anyone opposed, like sign. The bill will be placed on consent, and congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
And lastly, House Bill 95, an act relating to the selling and fitting of hearing instruments. Representative Walker Thomas, and thank you for your patience also. I know we've talked a lot about this bill during the interim, and introduce your guests for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm State Representative Walker Thomas, District 8, and we did hear Senator Nemus's bill in VMAP this morning, and it passed favorably. So we are starting to hear some Senate bills there. So I'll let my guests introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Casey Rutledge-Roof. I'm an educational audiologist for Jefferson County Public Schools.
Good morning. My name is Adam Haley, and I'm the Executive Director for the Kentucky Academy of Audiology. In the spirit of brevity, we're here today to talk about House Bill 95, legislation we discussed in the interim to amend the licensure statutes for audiology that would no longer require them to hold a separate license to dispense hearing aids. At the direction of the committee, we met with other interested parties over the interim and came to a set of agreed upon language where all the parties are comfortable with. We think this streamlines the licensure process for audiologists and directs patient resources to the best appropriate venue for disciplinary issues.
I appreciate the talking with everyone, talking this out during the interim. Thank you for doing that.
With that, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second on House Bill 95. Questions or discussion? Questions or discussion? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak against the bill? Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Senator Rocky Adams, Senator Douglas, Senator Higdon, Senator Hornback, Senator Howell, Senator McDaniel, Senator Neal, Senator Nemus, Senator Thayer, Senator Thomas.
Mr. Chair, can I briefly explain my aye vote?
You may.
Mr. Chair, I remember going back to the interim session, and I am so glad that we're about ready to make this bill law. Since it's passed the House, it's about ready to pass the Senate. This just makes so much sense to me that audiologists ought to be able to provide licenses for hearing aids. I mean, I would have thought they would have done it already. So I'm so pleased to see this bill pass. I think this is what the legislature is for, is to provide good common sense and good practice for the people of Kentucky, and this bill does that.
I agree.
Thank you. I'm glad to vote aye on this.
Yes, I appreciate that discussion in the interim.
Chairman Schickel.
I vote aye. There's 11 yeas, no nays, no passes. House Bill 95 is passed with favorable expression that same should pass. I heard a motion for consent is in a second. We have a motion and a second for consent. All those in favor use voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, like sign. House Bill 95 will be placed on consent. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else to come before this committee before we adjourn? Thank you all for being prompt.